you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys coming by. As always, the Chris Voss Show. This family loves you but doesn't judge you. You know, the great thing about the Chris Voss Show is when you drink it in, when you listen to the Chris Voss Show, as many of you do, 96% of you consume the show. You consume the show 96% of the time. I think you guys dip out at the end and skip to the next one. I think you're like, Chris is rounding out the credits. We're going to skip to the end and skip to the next one. But thank you for binge watching the show. We really appreciate it. As always, for 16 years and 2,000 episodes, we bring you the smartest, most brightest, brilliant people who give you the ideas to change your life, share their stories with you, and everything else. And we're doing that again. We have Michael Sakata, the president and CEO of the Maryland Transportation Builders Association, on the show with us today. We're talking about what he does and how he does it. I think I cut off part of that in the title, so we'll get into it. Michael is the president and CEO of the Maryland Transportation Builders and Materials Association, otherwise known as the MTBA. He boasts over 20 years. He's very boastful. No, I'm just kidding. He's not. He's a wonderful, humble guy. He has been over 20 years in the transportation sector. He has spurred record membership growth and advocates for 35,000 workers and business owners. His tenure creates impactful partnerships and serving on multiple state task forces, including appointments by Governor Wes Moore and Larry Hogan. Previously, he held significant roles at the American Road and Transportation Builders Association and received accolades for his innovation. He's a project management professional who holds a degree from George Mason University and an executive education certificate from Yale School of Management. Welcome to the show, Michael. How are you?
I'm great. How can I not be after that wonderful, authoritative introduction? By the way, Chris, I've heard you provide that service for people to be introduced to as they walk into the room. And
we're working on that. But Michael, give us your .coms. Where can you find people on the interwebs?
mtbma.org. That's kind of easy. You find all our information there.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. I think it was Obama who said, there was somebody who said, what was the hardest thing about leaving the presidency? And I think it was Obama. It was like, every time I walk into a room, music doesn't play anymore. It's kind of funny, but yeah, we're working on a service where we're just going to charge people to introduce them whenever they walk into a room. If you're walking to your kitchen, we'll just announce your wife and kids. And here now to bless you with his gracious countenance is your father.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just need that. You just need that to play every time, like some music that comes up and is at a crescendo. So just like you're walking onto a show. So, Michael, give us a 30,000 overview of what you guys do there at Maryland Transportation Builders and Materials Association.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. We're a trade organization. We've been around since 1932, so quite some time. I haven't been around that long, but we've got great folks who have kind of are around the transportation construction industry. That's all the contractors, engineers, the line stripers, everybody who has to do with the horizontal construction. And, we provide a lot of advocacy efforts, but also to, information on ensuring how these folks run their business. A lot of states add specifications and changes all the time. And so we keep on top of that and make sure, they're building that road, that airport, that bike ped facility.
There you go. And infrastructure is so important. I mean, there in Maryland, you guys are in your state, in that area, you guys had the crash of the Francis Scott Key Bridge and the whole thing there with the people were just boating and they were back in the back drinking or something. I don't know. I'm just making up shit, people. Don't write me. And how does something like that really impact infrastructure in a state like yours?
They were drinking or doing something, right? We might be party to a lawsuit here in a little bit.
Yeah, they were probably playing tic-tac-toe or I don't know. They were watching TikTok probably.
They were doing something. That's an interesting bridge, an interesting port facility, the Baltimore port, by the way, is a number one roll on, roll off, and a whole other accolades that port has been doing a great job. Jonathan Daniels over heading that port, Steve Johnson, those folks are awesome to work with, work for, but the FSK bridge, it's a 1.6 mile bridge, and it's a unique kind of monument, and it's a steel kind of a testament to Baltimore, right? That crossing between Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and by the way, passed through a small portion of Anne Arundel County. So really, that bridge is owned by three different entities, but managed by the tolling authority, MDTA. Yeah, and by the way, that $191 million a day is what having that
Holy crap.
Cost our region.
And that doesn't even count angry commuters who have more road rage now.
Oh, right. 100%. 30,000 people, by the way, cross the bridge daily.
That's
daily. And now they're finding their way, using ways, I'm sure, doing different things. But that commute is a lot worse for a lot more people, and it just kind of really focuses, the federal government, the local government on resiliency, right? What else can we do? Those dolphins, which now I hear about all these dolphins, which are the little things that protect the bridges from disaster.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I imagine around the country, people like yourselves who monitor and infrastructure is an important deal in making sure that the country runs well. I hope they're starting to look at how do we prevent this disaster from happening anywhere else.
100%. I know Federal Highways is helping these states to look at, the importance of ensuring they have that resiliency built in.
Yeah.
And supports built in, right?
Yeah, because if you don't, we don't need this to become a thing or a terrorist target. I hate to have to say that, but, that's one of the reasons they targeted 9/11. And, we don't need this to become a new thing that they're all after, hitting bridges and stuff. I know there's a bridge that's much like the Francis Scott Key Bridge in terms of its importance to infrastructure. It's the one that goes over, I believe, between Canada and maybe the Detroit area, Michigan. It's one of those, and there was a bunch of the truckers back a ways back that were blocking it, and it was like the number one feed of import between us and Canada that they were blocking. These bridges are like really important. It seems like we should have some backup bridges, kind of like you have backup hard drives,
Yeah.
Back up your data. Maybe we should have backup bridges.
I like that, backup bridges.
What's going on, man? I'm not in infrastructure, but we need some backup bridges.
Backup bridges. I agree. To me, that's the single point of failure, right?
Definitely. Yeah. So what is the state of infrastructure in this country? How's it going? I know there were some bills passed that was supposed to do some stuff, but how's it all working out?
Yeah, I would say it's a current state is mixed, right? We've had improvements on our many roads, our bridges, our transportation systems, but they still need major upgrades. The bill that you referred to, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, certainly provided funding, essential funding, leading to these significant improvements in our transportation, but broadband and water systems. The scale of our challenges means we still need kind of ongoing support and investment. The American Society of Civil Engineers, by the way, rates our infrastructure in that C range, indicating much work needs to be done. And I would say, we need that address the long-term needs and future challenges.
Get that work done. So was there enough money put in that bill, or was it kind of just a Band-Aid sort of thing?
It was the largest investment since the initial interstate highway system. It was a significant increase. However, you look at labor, you look at cost of materials, you look at these things also had a negative impact on the overall focus of that bill. Yes, it may have been large dollars, but at the end of the day, we still need more.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think, you can travel the roadways of this country and you can see the dilapidated overpasses, things falling off. there's plenty of news articles about this, and we've spent so much money in wars. Trillions, 8, 12 trillion in between Iraq and Afghanistan and some of these wars, and yet we're just falling apart from the inside, socially and infrastructure-wise, if you're checking your latest news.
Wise too, specifically in Maryland, there's a $1 billion hole in our 6-year transportation plan.
Wow.
And you add things like the Francis Scott Key Bridge, another bridge, American Legion Bridge, a couple of these transit lines in there, and you're equal up to $10 billion in a hole. And these projects need significant funding, but also they need those champions right at the federal state level to kind of move them over and get them done.
Let me ask you this: Does the biggest things that you need to raise the most money from for these infrastructure projects, is it federal or is it local governments? Who needs to really step up for this?
So that's an interesting question, right?
Mm-hmm.
How we get money at the federal level is through things like the IIJA, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how they get funded is through gas tax. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Gas tax has not increased since 1993. It's at 19.39 cents. So for every gallon you pay 19.39 at the pump.
Mm-hmm.
Going to the federal gas tax.
Mm-hmm.
At the local level, there's there's bonds, there's initiatives, and there's also a local gas tax. So that 19 cents in some states could be 40, could be 45, could be up to 50, 60 cents per gallon. And that pays for the local infrastructure.
There you go.
To answer your question too, also the federal investment on average, it's 53% of the road or infrastructure dollars. 53% of that comes from the federal government.
And it's kind of interesting. Politicians don't like to mess with that because then consumers it seems to really impact consumers like right away. They're like, where are the gas prices go to hell?
Yeah, they don't. They definitely. Since it hasn't been increased since 1993, right? I mean, that's a long time. And to have that conversation, we rely a lot on our federal partners to. But yeah, haven't been willing to raise it. And to your point, what do you and I look at inflation-wise, right? We look at the cost of milk and we cost of gas, right? And those two things are definitely in the minds and ears of politicians, especially running for re-election.
Yeah, I know at one point during, I don't know, kind of some of the crisis after COVID or during COVID or something, the Biden administration and politicians were talking about, I think, suspending gas taxes on a federal level. That was being kicked around. Is it better to do, like California, I know, has toll freeways and roads. I think there's other states that do it. Are those better? Are those a better way to apply those sort of costs or not, do you think?
So tollways really depends on who's doing it, right? Mm-hmm. Maryland's the only state that has the ability to set their own rates. Other states don't. They rely on third-party folks who have what's demand tolling, which in a way, if you think about it, they want to maintain that 55, 65 miles an hour or so. If there's, a flood of folks on there, those prices will increase. But and consequently, the speed will decrease. You want to keep it at that 55 mile per hour within that. Those are called traditionally called public-private partnerships, right? So a company can come in and build that lane and then charge for it. Mm-hmm. The benefits of that is you can get an asset quickly, right? You can get an asset paid for by that entity and you build it now. And that money, though, is not in that state's budget, right? Mm-hmm. So they can offload that. That's a benefit, right? But the negative, now that you're paying, they have a lease on that asset for the next 50 years, most cases. You're stuck with paying that for the next 50 years, or that state, the individuals who use that roadway. Mm-hmm. So they've been creative about when you adding hot lanes is what they call them. You also add general purpose lanes. You can increase that.
So they're using the money to expand the highway in and of itself on top of the expressways or the purpose lanes.
Exactly. Yeah.
There
so it's an innovative way. I mean, when done right, it can be a success for both sides, right? For the owner agency and for, the consumers and for the people who are putting it together, that construction team.
There you go. In California, there was a couple freeways, especially one in SoCal, I think out in Irvine or south of Irvine, where, I didn't mind paying a premium to be on those toll roads because there was almost no one on them. And usually it had a kind of a more of a direct way to get to places. And I didn't mind paying the premium. It was worth it, And so I think a lot of people, I don't know. That's just how I roll. I'm willing to pay extra for convenience and luxury, but maybe some people aren't. Maybe some people love traffic.
You're right. Agreed. And interesting you say that. Folks who use these lanes too are folks who need to get to and from jobs quickly. And imagine if I can get there at it. I know when I can get there. What's the most anxiety-driven thing about driving? Not knowing it's going to take half hour or an hour, right? Mm-hmm. Having those hot lanes allows you to have an option. I think that's ultimately, if I want to pay a little extra today to use it, great. Maybe not on a Saturday morning, but
yeah, it just kind of depends. Let's see. How has infrastructure spending evolved over the past decade? Is things getting better? Are we moving on from these wars and everything else we used to spend money on, chasing bin Laden around?
Yeah, the past decade, infrastructure spending has seen its fluctuations. Mm-hmm. We've seen continuing resolutions. We've seen like the FAST Act. We've seen certain things like the IIJ, that Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It's provided that much needed funding, but they've still fallen short. So I don't think they've evolved in a sense of focusing on the state and government and having them play crucial roles. Stepping up where the federal funding has lagged. But, we're still seeing, that growing recognition of importance and sustained investment in infrastructure. But it still needs to grow.
Definitely. I mean, it seems like we ignored, is it pretty true? We ignored infrastructure for, 40 plus years.
Not everybody would agree with that because there has been some construction and there has been a decent amount. If you look at, the bridges and these that need repair, 100%, I would say that, as a whole, we have neglected kind of a long-term outlook on our infrastructure spending. And that's kind of where I wouldn't say we've neglected as a whole. We've kept up, and there's a thing called system preservation. Sure, we've drips and drabs and helped it along, but, have we, look at around the world where they've surpassed us in high-speed rail and all these things. Had it for how many years? And now they're just doing it in California. I think, right? 40 years later.
40 years later, yeah.
So, in a way, we have, but in also, we've definitely kind of kept it. So.
Do you think that, one of the things about Japan and other places that have China that have high-speed rail, and of course China can do whatever it wants because, it's like, hey, we're going to take your apartment and just move it and put high-speed rail in, so have fun with that. But I think China, they always had public transportation and rail going back pre-war, so they always kind of were, they had that, what would you call it, that foundation to work from. I think for us, one of the biggest problems is trying to figure out how to do that with, we basically have to make new infrastructure, new foundation if we try to go high-speed rail, right?
100%. I mean, you look at these tracks that were laid, a long time ago. You need to, straighten them out in order to get up to the high-speed rail, but high speeds. But you also need long distances, right? We can't have commuter lines using high-speed rail. You need to have, that DC to New York kind of connection, as in, LA to California, right? And I think there's also some conversation about, where the stops are for that the high-speed rail. Was it a random town in California, right? I mean, to me, you need to make sure that those advocates are there pushing for that and the need for it.
Yeah. We should just make it so they can jump out on as the train is moving somehow and just throw parachutes on them or something. I don't know. This sounds.
It has to be pushed on a designated pusher, right?
Yeah, we'll let AI solve this. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Oh yeah, do it randomly to jump out.
After this show, I'm going to get on ChatGPT and ask the AI to tell me, to give me some ways that people can do that, and we'll see what it comes up with. I'm afraid, very afraid. So what could go wrong? So with this, with high-speed rail, I mean, I guess we just have to kind of bag that for now. I mean, like you said, if that thing ever gets done in California, I've lived in Vegas for 20 years, and that conversation about running high-speed rail between us and Vegas, I mean, it would be a dream. I'm still just shocked that there's only like in the freeway between Vegas and California, there's sometimes only 2 lanes, and I'm like, are you serious? There's nothing out here. What the fuck? and I've been on Sundays. You don't leave Vegas on Sunday, and I've been on that road on Sundays, and I've had it be a parking lot from the moment I left Vegas to the moment I arrived in San Bernardino, coming out of that pass, and it was just parking 10 miles an hour the whole time, 20 miles an hour the whole time. It was insane. I think it took, I don't know, it took a lot more hours than it should have. So I think it was double the hours. But, it's stuff like that. You just see it and you're just like, what the hell? Thankfully in states like mine, Las Vegas, we have the casinos that pay for everything. So we have all these brand new freeways and bridges. Everything's freaking new here. They just throw stuff up and tear it down like it's going out of style here. So maybe everyone just needs casinos.
Yeah. And pay for it all. No,
And speaking of that, what is the future of funding? Is it casinos, or what are some of the other key emerging trends for infrastructure funding that are available out there?
I mean, we talked a little bit about P3s, right? Partnerships, that's a role. You're going to see, modernization, right? That sustainability, resilient infrastructure. We talked a little bit about that on the Francis Scott Key Bridge, making sure they can withstand, not just the large cruise or large ships, but other climate impacts, right? The innovative funding mechanisms, are also gaining some traction. Technology, right? We've heard of smart roadways that can charge vehicles. I think that in Denmark, right? That will drive efficiencies and new capabilities. But ultimately, Chris, what we're seeing is higher miles per gallon in EV vehicles, right? Oh. You see those and you think about, great idea, but in the day, what they don't pay is, kind of
gas
similar
taxes.
to like gas tax, right?
Oh, wow. I never thought about that.
Think about that, right? It's a direct hindrance to the state and local operating budgets, because that's been past 100 years. That's been their main source of income, right? So what do you do, right? Vehicle miles traveled. Okay, that could be, you have a little ticker on your car, how many miles you go. It will help address that dwindling gas tax revenue. However, VMTs come with the privacy concerns. Nobody wants to be watched like TikTok, but people want to watch TikTok. But they don't want the privacy concerns. But those need to be addressed, right?
Yeah. Even though evidently Elon is watching at all moments on those cars. So there you go.
You know what? Everybody's watching.
Everyone's watching everybody at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. But we got to balance that need, right? Balance for sustainable funding with privacy protections. That's going to be critical.
You brought this up because we talk a lot about the EV market. I've had friends that rode with Tesla and Elon in the first Teslas, and a lot of my friends are Silicon Valley types and nerds, so they love their Teslas until they found out that evidently the politics have changed. But I never thought of that. I mean, how much of has anyone calculated the cost of what EVs are costing in these taxes that would go to infrastructure? And has there been any sort of implementation of legislation that's tried to offset those? I mean, it's kind of funny. EVs even got a federal credit for a while. If they don't do
that $7,500 credit. Yeah, it's still out there. Some states are looking to address it, but that still nationally needs to kind of be addressed.
This is going to be a conversation I'm going to be having that's going to cause a lot of arguments on Facebook.
Yeah, they're not paying their fair share.
Yeah, I'm going to start shaming those darn I already shame the Cybertruck enough as it is. Every chance I get, I can shame that Cybertruck.
One more thing, and we're all obviously everybody can have the ability to choose whatever vehicle they want. Obviously, but these EVs are obviously heavier too.
Oh, that's right.
Guardrails need to be replaced. These things So there's a whole host of issues that can happen, and we just need flexible state agencies to implement policies.
That's true. There's a video on file. You probably saw it of them. One of Tesla's competitors, Reliant, starts with an R. Rivian.
Yeah.
They tested a Rivian against the barriers and stuff that are on the freeway, and it just blew right through them. There was nothing there. And so the conversation was, we've got to, they're so heavy with the battery in them, we've got to reanalyze all these different barriers and if they can sustain or contain, I guess, these EV cars. Because the Rivian just went right through it. Yeah, that was cute what you got there.
To think about that, what about on bridges, right?
Yeah.
They're supposed to help. I mean, so that type of infrastructure needs to be looked at and supported.
I don't know. In my mind, though, it sounds if these EV people aren't paying their way on bridge taxes, maybe we should just let Darwinism figure that out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, folks. We can't have that because then other people get hurt and all that good stuff. I'm just starting a war with the EV people on the show, I guess, at this point. No, we're not. We're just being, these are things we need to know. With the power of voters, obviously they're kind of technically in control of the purse. What should voters and citizens be thinking about and maybe lobbying their politicians and governors, et cetera, to try and take care of these things or motivate them maybe?
Chris, listen, I mean, it's simple, right? We all want to get to our destination quickly, efficiently, but most importantly, safely, right? Our roads, bridges, highways, all those things, they move precious cargo, no matter what it is, right? In roads, the kids to daycare, right? Our infrastructure takes significant investment to maintain and build. And our stakeholders, like your listeners, should contact their legislators and tell them that, hey, this is important for them to not just champion but also to give these DOTs the money and the power to kind of make some significant contributions.
There you go. It's really important. I mean, it's like I said, there's scary bridges. Sometimes you'll see they're falling apart. You can look at them and you're just like, I don't know about that. And especially with, like I said, the Francis Scott Key situation bridge, where we just got people, I mean, technically transportation also falls into boating, I would imagine, this country to some degree, maybe. I don't know. Waterways?
Yeah, waterways.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, check ships better. I don't know how that works. But no more drinking and shipping. That's all I'm saying. And then, like I said earlier, that trucking shutdown of that bridge that went over between Canada and America was so bad that like companies like Ford and auto parts companies that rely on some parts from Canada had to slow or stop their progress of building cars, and all these things really impact the supply chain, right? I mean, across the nation, even if you squeeze like a certain area it just doesn't affect the city or state, right? It can affect whole supply chains across the nation.
Yeah, it definitely impacts are far and wide. Just to your point, right? Everything is affected by the delivery of goods and services. My Amazon purchases that
anytime I see one of those containers fall in the ocean, I'm like, I guess I'm not getting that. I can't think of anything funny to make a joke about right now. But I guess I'm not getting my box of Oreos anytime soon.
Probably a good thing for me.
Probably. Thanks, Michael. Throw me right into the bus there, buddy. All right, probably a good thing. You've been talking to my doctor and my dietitian, haven't you? But that's true. Don't do the Oreos, folks. That's what the whole show's about anyway. So any other long-term outlook on the future of infrastructure funding, maybe what we need to do, any new technologies that are going to save our butts?
I don't think we can AI our way out of this, but I would say our outlook is cautiously optimistic. My long-term outlook, and you've heard kind of those significant challenges. But conversations like this, kind of showcase the growing recognition of critical importance of infrastructure to our economy, our society. Right? Mm-hmm. We all want to get to work faster, safer, but you look at post-COVID world, people are driving 10 more miles to get to their job. Whether that's for a better paying job, right? Oh, really? But we need to find, that innovative funding solutions and focus on sustainable funding solutions. Mm-hmm. But I really believe, with those investments and, we can continue to build and maintain a world-class infrastructure.
There you go. And I mean, companies are still trying to get people in the office. So I don't even know if our infrastructure is being fully capacity utilized at this point. I think there's still a lot of people working remote. So if we ever went full back, it could be crazy.
Oh yeah.
It could be crazy. It's probably better than it hasn't become full. I mean, they haven't been able to claw everybody back. It's kind of interesting. Maybe they can. I see a lot of empty and I think probably low capacity filled commercial spaces. Maybe we can run some more freeways around those things or something. I don't know. Off ramps or something. It's crazy, some of the things that I see, but yeah, anything to make traffic move better. I mean, if anybody needs the most infrastructure sort of help, I mean, I don't know, because I don't live back east. I mean, you guys do have some tight stuff back there. But I know California really needs some more freeways. That or less people, one of the two. I don't know, but I think more freeways are the only way to fix it. Yeah, it's just crazy living in that town. I imagine New York and all that area has the same sort of nightmarish issues, but at least we have good weather.
That's for sure.
There you go. So give us your final thoughts as we go out. Tell people how they can find out more about you guys on board, get familiar with what the Maryland Transportation Builders and Materials Association is doing.
Well, I would say, number one, check out our website, mtbma.org. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of great things here. We are kind of focused in our region, making sure that our DOT is adequately supported, funded, helped. For me, it's just making sure. I think I said it earlier. Get your listeners to tell their legislators that we continue to need significant investment to maintain, build our infrastructure.
There you go. Hey, one last question. This is kind of a question I was thinking about. A lot of big commercial buildings that I see right off of freeways, and usually they're big, tall buildings, probably have a lot of traffic that goes through in and out of them. Do localities look at municipalities look at the cost of those, and maybe should charge more for people that have popular corners, as they like to do in retail? They have those high visible corners. Maybe they should be charged a little bit more. I don't know.
And definitely an interesting, innovative. We may need to have you on a revenue commission to look at some.
This is why I get $5 a day, because I think of the big ideas.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, something like that. I mean, it would seem to me like those usually impact a lot of traffic because there's people usually dumping in and out of them. The other thing that should also be charged really highly, and I think sadly it's state promoted or funded or given tax credits, is arenas. Like arenas just cause stupid amounts of, here in Vegas, I love the Raiders. I'm a Raiders fan. I love the new arena, but holy crap, where they put it is insane. And then there's two other arenas. I think there's one they're going to build for baseball, the Tropicana, or they're going to try to. And then there's the Verizon or something arena that's just right off the freeway. And you don't even want to be in those areas at certain times. And it's like, we should be charging those guys extra. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. You can take it out of Live Nation's cut because they got plenty of money, evidently.
Absolutely.
Now I'm getting a C&D from Live Nation for sure. Anyway, guys, thank you very much, Michael, for coming on the show. Give us the .com one last time as we go out.
mtbma.org.
There you go. Check it out, folks. Remember, you get the government you deserve. So lobby your politicians, get active in government, as we always talk in this. Keep your politicians, hold their feet to the fire. I mean, I mean that in a sense that is not for don't really put their feet to the fire. That's illegal, folks. But, keep them up. Let them know that you're watching, you're expecting them to do their job. And that's really important in today's day and age. So there you go. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and all those crazy places on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. I should have said